My uncle 42 was a victim of paternity fraud. Hello Reddit. I hope you all are enjoying your life. Remember, you are loved by the Christ. I'm a 25-year-old Indian woman. My country is full of culture and ethics, so paternity fraud from India wouldn't be a common issue. My uncle was the very less part of victims of India. He suffered from a very massive hot rod shock of paternity fraud. You can check my article on The Guardian. My uncle is 42-year-old Hindu. He is my mom's younger brother. He loves to love people, yet he is a bit naive and trusting. He is a cool type of people who doesn't believe in Desi stereotypes. He is fun to be with and always engaging, and my only best friend was. He is a retired army brat. I'm a 25-year-old married woman who has a cute baby boy who teaches me ways of life. The story is an incident 3 years ago. My uncle found out the child he was raising, 15, want his. It wasn't a child exchange or adoption. Ahan was born from my uncle's ex-wife's affair with her neighbor. He was surely devastated because he thought that the woman he loved was leaving him to provide her for her selfish needs. My uncle is naive. He trusts too easily, so this trust break was disgusting. There were many things going wrong from my family's side which made him cut us all out. He was hurt and took an exit from his service. He was jobless and hopeless. Here I did a major stupid thing of saying biology doesn't matter. Children are innocent, but looking at a child who is born from you special others adultery can rip off bandages. If I betray my current husband and has an affair baby, what would he do? My uncle loves kids. In fact, there is an ashram where he used to teach, so digesting the fact that he didn't want to raise a child he raised for so many years is a bit devastating. My nephew is 15 and he knows the reasons why my uncle abandoned him, and surprisingly he is fine with the fact. He is one strong-hearted boy. The Western men are easily overcoming paternity fraud, and I would like to know how or what do you do to make the pain go away. My uncle went suicidal for 8 weeks. His reliance with alcohol was bad enough until he even started having drugs. Counseling 3 times a week didn't help. And my entire family went against my uncle, his family including me, because we didn't like the Oreo of him abandoning the kid he had raised for so many years, and his idea of divorce was harsh. In our culture, maintaining a marriage is very important, and so divorce don't occur much. And my family is kind of strong mix of tradition. The only members my uncle is in contact with is his blood son, my elder brother, and my father. He has cut out his own aging mother too. And the reason being, we really didn't support him in his dark times. I think there were a bunch of asshole-ish moves we all had contributed to, which made my uncle a bit harsh. He is happily married and stays in Sweden. He has a wife and a beautiful girl I am yet to meet. I hope he forgives me and his family, but till then, this is my message to the guys reading this. Remember, there are women. WHO support you guys. If you ever feel doomed, then just PM me. Have a happy life because it is only one you have. Redditor's reactions. Story 2 after. Redditor 1, I feel awful for your uncle. I doubt he'd ever talk to you though. Why would he? If he's smart, he's just focusing on his family's happiness, and you are no longer family. Just leave him alone. He chose which members of his family he wanted to communicate with. Redditor 2, I really hate this insidious form of crime. Yes, crime. If cheating wasn't bad enough. Paternity fraud is the lowest of the low. It destroys lives, relationships, and families. It can have the effect of invalidating entire lived lives. It breaks people, sometimes permanently. I personally know of 2 suicides resulting from paternity fraud. Yes, I know family is not all about biology, but the damage done by lying about paternity is devastating for all concerned, and a scar that will last forever. I have seen the effects in my own family and in my work, and it is always terrible and far-reaching. I often wonder if there should be greater protection under the law for this type of crime, with structured legal implications. Thoughts? Redditor 3, your uncle would have loved this, knew you. But sadly, I don't think he will get to meet the new you, and good for him moving on from that mess. Betrayal like that, from your own family no less, is not something that can be done without great effort. Is this your atonement for that? To be here for others like him when they are hurting like he was? I hope you are actually sincere, and those going to hit you up for support aren't going to be reeled into a hard-line value system of reconciliation. Answer: there were biased opinions, but there were members who were supporting too. Story 2: my mom is cheating on my dad, advice please? I 17F oldest daughter know for a fact that my mom is cheating on my dad with a guy from our church. He has a wife and kids about my age. My mom FaceTimes him every Sunday and has phone time loud enough I can hear from the kitchen while my dad is at work. She tells him she loves him, and I've never heard her say that to my dad. She also is constantly emailing him some kind of not texting or familiar chat service about God knows what, and gets really upset if I say his name in any context. He is my brother's young men's leader, they're Mormon. She also has a separate phone for pictures, but that's not true because it has a worse camera than her regular one. Last time I told my dad about a different guy was 13 and it ended in holes in the wall. Police called bad time. My parents separated for about 2 weeks after that, then he apologized. We are now all in therapy and my issues with him aren't really the point. Edit. I'd like to note that she did not apologize even though there was actual evidence of her timiding him. I was the one to come across it on my little brother's iPad. Thank God I saw it before him, and I told my dad. I've told my dad before, which would make her even more likely to assume it's me. I don't know if I should really do anything about it and tell him again, because I don't want me or my younger siblings to have to experience that again. It was really traumatic, but I also think he deserves to know. I also should clarify that none of us are in any danger. He didn't hurt us physically, and I have no fear that him or my mom ever will. Edit. My mom was 21 when she married my at the time 39 dad. She was on her second marriage. Her first was to a guy who she got engaged to at 17. He was 23. My dad isn't really a respectable person and is under investigation for tax evasion and some kind of fraud. I also have no desire to continue a relationship with either of them after they pay for my college. I become financially stable and don't need them anymore. My mom caused a lot of religious trauma and emotionally manipulated me as a child. I don't have as many issues with her because she grew up in an abusive household and was groomed twice by my dad and her ex. She never really emotionally aged past 17. Edit 2. I think right now I'm leaning towards just not doing anything at all. I'm trying to think of a way to tell his wife that won't lead to me being blamed. I know a letter would inform her, but she'd probably blow up at him and he'd probably tell my mom that someone said something to which she'd immediately blame me. I know she deserves to know, however I value myself and my siblings more. I've thought about telling his kids, who are about my age 17 and 24, but I think that would just lead to more problems. It's also something to note, I'm in a two-party consenting state, so it's illegal for me to record them. Redditor's reaction. Story 3 after. Redditor 1, tell the guy's wife and let her handle it. You could do it anonymously. Answer, that's something I didn't think of. I'll see if I can do that. I have LDS tools if you know what that is, so I could find her. Thanks. Redditor 2, Jesus Christ, are you okay? I'm more worried about how you're handling things. Answer, it's not really a shock. They should have divorced years ago. It would be better for us all. But yay, it's weird. Redditor 3, do you have an individual therapist? Story 3, I got my Ancestry DNA kit results back and I am finding out that my 25F dad is not my dad. How to proceed? Was debating on posting. I sent in a DNA ancestry test kit about a month ago. I did it mostly out of curiosity, but I had nagging thoughts and drives before then. Let me explain. I was born in Arizona. I have no memory of living there as we moved shortly after I was born. My mom was 15 and my dad was 21. I've always, for my entire life, had a nagging feeling to go back. It felt like instinct almost that I had to journey down there from NY where I live now. Almost like I belong there, on some spiritual asset. I got to finally visit Oz a few months ago, and I've been telling people that it's the first time I fell in love with anything other than a person. I keep wanting to go back. The other nagging thought I've had was that I was adopted or that my dad isn't my dad. It was always in passing and I never clung on to the thought, but it was like a whisper in the back of my mind. My family, on both sides, has proud heritage. My father's side is proudly Iroquois, Mohawk. I was raised in the culture and my family has heirlooms and whatnot on display at our local Iroquois museum. I'm in photos and articles having to do with the museum. I even get a lot of compliments on my high cheekbones and eye shape. My native name is on my birth certificate. Well, my results came back, and they are not what I expected. My mother's side of the ancestry is all there and accurate, but there is nothing from my dad's side. In fact, it says I am Japanese, Chinese, Mayan, Peruvian, Central African, and some native tribe called the Pima people, which is the actual name of the county I was born in Arizona. Too much of coincidence, and my father is none of those. I've told my grandfather on my mom's side. He is in total denial and says it's wrong even though his ancestry is accurate on it. My aunt on my maternal side said she already knew. In fact, she speculates that it is a man my mom dated after my dad named Corey, who is my youngest sister's father. She and I look identical if you compare baby photos. He is also Hispanic. And he was part of my dad's friend group back then. The ducked up part about this is that Corey was a violent drunk. He punched me in the face at 19 years old and broke my cheekbone. It cost my full-time job, permanent nerve damage, and overall ruined my life with mental health issues that I've had to spend a year of my life treating with intense outpatient mental health rehab. I haven't told my mom or dad. My dad will disown me. He is already absent enough at this time but still tells me he loves me occasionally. It will break him and he already has depression. I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. I know what I am, but not who. My whole life growing up feels like a lie. My native name is a lie. I feel like a fraud having had so much pride in my heritage. My world is flipped upside down. I don't know what the right thing to do is. My aunt says to keep it a secret, but secrets and lies in this family have ruined my life. No one wanted to preserve my feelings growing up. Edit, just to clarify, I did not take 23andMe or my ancestry kits. My kit used a saliva tube sample, though. There are also a lot of misconceptions about tribes recognizing DNA results. Keep in mind that rules vary between tribes across the country. Some hold themselves in more solidarity than others. I am not trying to say that my dad isn't my dad just because of a test result. I'm saying that I'm worried he isn't my bio dad. He did raise me and that makes him a father to me, but at the same time, I didn't have a great upbringing with my parents and he is currently absent from my life anyway, for the most part. As for my cultural upbringing, my native grandfather passed away. His photos and paintings of him working as an iron worker in NYC are hanging in the Iroquois Museum at House Cave, New York. If you look up the museum, you might find an article mentioning our family and even a photo of us. My grandmother absolutely refuses to let anyone who isn't native onto certain parts of our property that display native pieces. For example, we have a cabin that displays the masks on the walls. No one is allowed and that she doesn't deem worthy. She says they are sacred and that certain things are not meant to be shared. There is always a stick perched diagonal across the door for this reason. Anyone in the know knows what this means. My paternal side would absolutely cut me off if it were found out that my dad was not my bio dad. On the results, I can see everything that my maternal grandfather said was in his ancestry. It even notified me of having the SNAP25 gene that my grandmother, his wife, had. But, the reason I am unsure is because there is absolutely nothing listed that I know to be on my paternal side of the family. I know for absolute sure they are Iroquois and Irish for so many reasons, including an article with our names being published through the museum on the internet. For anyone who is curious, my native name is Koroniekans. Updates for everyone who commented so far. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, doesn't matter what site it is or how accurate you believe them to be. All of them will have a very rough time with Native American DNA results. Many tribes forbid using them, which means they have limited, at best, markers to detect Native American genetics. Meaning you could be Hiawatha reborn, take the test, and it'd come back as Chinese and whatnot. They can only match you to markers they have, and it is very likely they just don't have the right markers. It is entirely possible you are correct, but I don't think you can use the DNA testing you did as proof of anything. At best, it should just mean more needs to be done to find the truth. Redditor follow-up. This. If you really want to find out, do an actual paternity test. Do not use Ancestry.com as your base. Redditor 2. From what I know, Native American tribes largely forbid their members from using DNA things. The idea being that you're not a member of a tribe by DNA but by how you were raised. Thusly, if it doesn't say you have any native DNA, then that is probably because they've nothing to compare it to. Also, Ancestry and me and all those are notorious for being iffy. There was a story years ago where some guy who worked in one of them would add African DNA on people's tests. Basically, if you're unsure, take a paternity test. Don't trust something that is mostly a gimmick. Op answer, for my tribe, you must have native blood somewhere down a maternal line. Or, you must have gone through a special process to be inducted. In order to register for your card, you must provide both parents' and grandparents' birth certificates. Iroquois are allowed to freely travel between Canada and US without a passport as long as they have paperwork. They are exempt from being considered immigrants. It really depends on the tribe. I didn't use my Ancestry or 23andMe. This kit was held in high regard for its accuracy. But I plan on doing another to do a comparison. I've done a popular AMA on being Iroquois descended because I was so proud. I don't know how to do a paternity test without stirring trouble. Could I test against my half-sister, if my aunt believes we actually share a father? My middle sister looks nothing like us. Redditor 3, these tests can be weirdly inaccurate when it comes to Native American peoples. My sib did one a few years ago that claimed we are Japanese. We're not. We have long-off relatives that were part of a tribe on the east coast of the US. Won't say more as my sib is involved with projects and this borders into personally identifiable stuff. Our best guess is that because of people coming over from the Bering Strait, and a lack of data overall, these tests are not fully accurate and there's some overlap in what they use to identify these groups. So don't think your dad isn't your dad until there's further testing done. Redditor 4, you do know they only work with what's in their databank, right? So if there isn't anyone from your tribe in it, then it won't be accurate. Read the fine print. Sounds to me like you're jumping the gun on something you only have half the info of. Op answer, I'll take a look at the site again and see what I can find. I might not be so skeptical if my aunt wasn't telling me she already knew it was a possibility. I hope I am wrong. Redditor 5, please don't take those tests as truth. They're really only accurate to pinpointing continents of origin. Anything more specific is guessing based on comparing collected data. If you take it now, and you take it again in 1 year, the results will be different because they've gotten more data and it'll always be changing. I believe someone above mentioned that if people from your father's tribe haven't taken a lot of tests, there's very little for it to compare to. The sites are a fun novelty, but a novelty is all that it is. Their fine print and the videos about them explain that it is not accurate. Redditor 6, I think the important thing to remember is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, as in your family is who you choose it to be. Regardless of who your father is, you were raised in the culture and with that heritage. Regardless of how your father is, you are not a fraud or anything like that. I understand you'd want to know who your dad is, but don't turn your back on your old life just because he might not be your real dad. If that makes any sense, but you are free to be who you want, so if you want to be who you were raised, you can, and if you want to try to be someone else because he might not be your dad, that's fine too, just be true to yourself. If you are proud of your heritage, I don't see any reason you'd need to abandon it because of DNA. Redditor follow-up, very well said, and what I was trying to figure out how to say without sounding condensing. Regardless of DNA results, he is likely still welcome in his tribe, so hopefully, even if it does end up as he was suspecting, he doesn't abandon his current heritage. Hopefully he can help keep their heritage alive.